Hi, this is Carl. Welcome to another SMB Community Podcast. I'm joined today by Doug Hazelman, who's from Cloudberry. So, you are the VP of Technical Marketing. So let's start with what is Cloudberry and then what is technical marketing?
So Cloudberry, we're in essentially the backup and disaster recovery space. We have cloud in our name. So as you might have guessed, we help facilitate backups from on-prem to the cloud. So we help you get your data offsite into the cloud. We support over 30 different cloud storage providers. And what we focus on, and we have a big focus on MSPs, on managed service providers. So we have a SaaS hosted application where there's a centralized control panel where you can manage multiple customers to facilitate their backup into the cloud, perform recoveries for them and those types of things. So that's kind of our focus. My role is technical marketing. It's kind of I needed a title, and it kind of makes the most sense because what I'm here to do at Cloudberry is not only help us grow the business from a marketing perspective, but to engage and interact with the MSP community, with the small business community, that folks like yourself represent, to help get our word out there and just do different interactions. I've been doing a number of podcasts lately. We're getting ready to host our own here before too long, and that's kind of that engagement model of being active in the community.
And how long has Cloudberry been around?
Been around for not quite, let's see, what was it? About almost 10 years, I think, that Cloudberry's had product. Started out just with, essentially backup for single PCs and servers and those types of things. Realized that there was a really good market that was kind of being underserved when it came to the small service providers. We're not talking the great big service providers that have tens of thousands of seats and those types of things. But really just the sole proprietor type of people who just needed a solution and didn't have the budget to pay for the backup software from the big brands that everybody kind of thinks about when they think of backup for MSPs.
And do people mostly use you to back up servers or workstations?
They do both. So there's we have the server product to back up servers, and then we support Windows, Mac, and Linux on kind of the workstation side. So they use it for all those types of things.
And is this an image type backup or a file and folder type backup?
So for it's file and folder, but for Windows we do have image based. But as you can imagine, if you're going directly from the client to the cloud, image based can sometimes take a little bit of time, especially if you're talking about a number of large servers. But we have seating options and those types of things to help facilitate that. And once you get that initial up there, then it does help.
Well, and I'm a big believer that we're more and more moving to that it's the data that matters, not the computer. Because, if this machine dies, I'm not replacing it with the same machine.
Yeah.
I'm just not, right? I used to manage backups for very, very large corporations. And they would literally, their disaster recovery plan would call out how many 386 computers they would have, right? And you would literally, the plan would be to go get that computer and replace it. But now if a computer is a year old, I'm just, I'm getting another one.
Yeah. Well, and especially with virtualization, with essentially a server now just being a set of files that can be moved around anywhere. It doesn't matter the hardware. Virtualization and cloud at the same time has really changed a lot of these technologies. One of the advantages we do have on backing up image level is on Amazon as well as Microsoft Azure is we can actually take that image level backup and spin it up as a VM in the cloud. So whether it's an EC2 instance or an Azure VM, so that kind of adds even another level of disaster recovery is that okay, I'm sending my images to the cloud. If something happens on site on-prem, I can now spin those up as virtual machine instances in the cloud and be back up and running.
Now, some of the BDR vendors say, oh, you can spin up your server in the cloud, but it's got to be temporary. We're just not designed to leave it there. But if you're using Azure, you could just spin it up and say, hey, guess what? You just migrated.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's one of the things, because Cloudberry, we don't have a proprietary cloud. We support all of the clouds. And it's not that we only have technology, our internal technology for clouds that only works with our stuff. We give the customer, the MSPs, we give them the choice to use the cloud that they want, and they may use different clouds for different customers. Depends on what kind of resiliency that they need within the cloud. Some customers might be very budget conscious, so they want to go as cheap as possible. Others might be, they want tiered data storage in S3, so they want Glacier and all those types of things. So it really gives that solution provider a good option and a good mix to provide their customers with different options.
And do you sell direct to end users?
We sell direct to MSPs, and we do sell direct to end users as well. But typically, they're buying our standalone backup, which I call. We have two versions. There's standalone, and then there's managed. So standalone backup. If you're a small business and you have your own IT and you have 10 clients, whether that's servers and workstations, then the standalone might be fine for you. You can buy it directly from us, manage your own backups, those types of things. If you're a managed service provider, then you're managing typically multiple customers. You've got multiple endpoints. That's where that centralized management comes in, and you can set up your different customers in different ways. But you always log into a single portal to manage those settings.
And for the MSPs, do they buy so much storage per user, or do they buy an amount of storage and then allocate it to different end users?
Well, that's the nice thing about the flexibility, because we don't sell the storage. We don't sell the cloud storage. It's up to them to provide it.
So I could buy S3 and just say, all right, I'm putting these 6 clients on it, and your tool gets the data up there.
Exactly. And then you can charge the customer, whatever you want to cover your storage cost and, whatever margin you feel is necessary.
And you also have you have a direct drive. Is that a name drive letter?
Yeah. So we have, besides the backup software, we have a couple of utilities. One of them is Cloudberry Drive, which essentially mounts an S3 bucket as a drive letter on your computer. That's, I believe it's Windows only. And then we also, we have a couple of other cloud-based utilities to help manage, your different cloud bucket data and those types of things. So Cloudberry Explorer is another one that connects to S3, and it looks like, Windows Explorer being able to browse through the buckets and the file folders. Right. It makes it look normal instead of managing it through S3.
So I'm familiar with, I know Jungle Disk does a similar thing. So if the cloud drive is your primary storage, how do you back that up?
You mean if you're running everything in the cloud?
Yeah.
Well, again, because we can do file and folder, you can go cloud to cloud. So you can back it up from one cloud to another. And that's one of the things, because we also have support for Office 365 and G Suite. And the benefit we talk about there is you can back up your Office 365 data from Microsoft to another cloud. And the same with Google and those types of things. So you're kind of protecting yourself in the event of a catastrophic cloud failure, which we know can just be caused by a wrong DNS entry in a particular region. So you're kind of protecting yourself and your data in case something happens by having it in another location.
Very cool. So with the backup to the cloud, is it something where I'm going to have to install a widget on every single desktop, every single server?
Yeah, you are. It's agent based. So you install an agent on the servers, on the workstations. If you're using RMM software, we integrate with most of the major ones. You can use that to push it out. And then
you can. So
yes.
So I can use my RMM to push out your agent. Very cool.
Exactly. So we know how MSPs operate, so we want to make it easy for them. But it's really not that difficult to push the agent out to the workstations or have them send them a link and they can install it themselves, and then you can do the configuration from that centralized place, and you can set up different policies and those types of things, so that as new computers come online, they get applied a policy that says, hey, this is what we're going to back up, and this is what we're going to back it up to. The advantage of go ahead.
Oh, I was just say, so that agent stores a secure password to that cloud storage.
It's essentially a key exchange at runtime that does a talk back and forth depending on the cloud provider. So then there's a secure communication encrypted between the client and the cloud storage. And that's one of the distinctions we like to make is even though we have this centralized management that runs in the cloud, the data itself goes from the client to the cloud, not through us. We just kind of, our interface facilitates that conversation. We say, okay, time to back up. Here's where you're going to go. Here's the key you need. Send it over. And then the backup happens without the data going through us.
Right. And is this priced per endpoint or how is it priced?
It is. So it's, we have different pricing for workstations and servers. We have some virtualization editions. We have pricing for Exchange as well as SQL. So there's a kind of a whole menu of pricing that's available right within the interface and our managed backup service.
And is there, I'm assuming, no cost to become a partner?
Correct. It's no commitment. If you're an MSP, you want to take a look at it, you can go to our website, look for managed backup. You can sign up for a free trial. You get 15 days. We even give you 2 gig of storage in S3, so you can test it out. So not only do we give you the free software, we give you some free storage in Amazon, so you can then go and set up a couple of clients, check it out, make sure that it works for you, and look at the different options, and then go from there.
Is there some reasonable limit to how big of a data store I should have on this?
It depends is always the answer, because when you look at the amount of data, you have to consider how long is it going to take you to transfer that to the cloud at least once, and then how long is it going to take for you to retrieve it from the cloud, in the event that something happens to all of the data. So you want to take those factors into consideration, and one of the things that's going to make a big difference is what's your bandwidth, what's your connection to the internet, to the cloud. If it's bad, then you probably want to look at doing file level instead of image level, and probably seeding some of that data to the cloud, and then just doing incrementals thereafter.
So, well, I'm a big fan of having my primary storage in the cloud, and then I literally just pull it back down as the backup. So, kind of the reverse sort of way of using it. But so the reason I asked that is, if I've got, let's say, 0.5 terabyte of data up there, is that going to affect performance at all?
If you're pulling it, I guess if your client is connecting to the cloud to pull your data, then pushing it back to the cloud, that's definitely going to have an impact, because you're essentially pulling it down to back it up and then pushing it back up to where it needs to go. So that scenario probably is not specifically how we would
I was thinking
recommended design.
Primary storage is in the cloud, and then I just bring it back down, and that's what I do.
Okay.
So, and then does each individual agent have its own username and password, or is there like one for the drive, the S drive or the X drive or whatever?
Well, again, you don't have to. That's our Cloudberry Drive, which is a separate product.
Right.
The backup software, the backup agent, you can configure it to that everyone has their own username and password, or you can set up one username and password for the entire company. So as an MSP, I can say, all the agents run under this username and password. That way, kind of, might make management a little bit easier. And in that way, you don't have to remember or do all these different things. The other thing is, part of it from the MSP perspective is you can also rebrand it. So from the backup software itself, you can make it have your company name, your logo, all those types of things, so that if someone does actually see it, they'll know that it's you, and they won't say, well, who the heck is Cloudberry, and what is this software doing on my computer? Right. But if they see your name, they'll be like, oh, well, Bob installed something for me. I know he's taking care of me, whatever. It's no big deal. And then there's also options, so that it doesn't show up in the system tray and all that type of stuff, just so that you can tell them that they're protected, but they don't have to be bothered by it on a constant basis.
Right. And for the normal, image-based backup, they don't ever actually use it, right? I mean, unless they're going to restore from
correct
backup.
Yeah.
So they don't have to know. They don't even have to know it exists.
Correct.
Just the office manager.
They just need to know that. Yeah, they just need to know that, hey, if they lose that Word document, that I call up my, I call up my help desk, whoever that may be, and they can get it back for me. That's all that really matters at the end of the day.
So I manage all my clients inside of your portal. What happens if one of my clients says, hey, I don't like this guy anymore, I'm going across the street? How do they move their account? Is that pain in the ass?
Again, the account would be with the service provider, not with the client. So, if that client wants to move and they want their backup data, then you can pull that down for them and package it up and give it to them. Or, if you are in good relationship with the guy across the street, you could say, look, I'll transfer it from our cloud, from the cloud we're using to the cloud you're using. They're using Cloudberry. If you keep using that, then that's all great.
So if they are using Cloudberry, you can switch their credentials or whatever, and
well, you'd have to switch the storage, right? You'd
have to download it and upload it again.
Well, you could go cloud to cloud, but you need to get it out of your bucket and into their bucket.
Okay, got it.
That makes sense.
Very cool. Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're getting charged for their backup. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just saying it's not like the Office licenses through SureWeb or Intermedia, where I just say, you can give Doug these 2 accounts. So.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you own the license, not the customer. So if they decide to leave, they own the data typically. Right. So you just need to give them their data back. But you don't have to, transfer the licenses. If you can reuse those licenses for somebody else.
Right. And are these images, it sounds like you update the image. So like a small amount of data changes every day. So you just do a delta on the image.
Yeah.
So, and then for somebody who's got lots and lots of seats, do you recommend that they have more than one cloud account? Some of them on Azure and some on Amazon, or?
Well, again, it depends, from the MSP perspective, it depends on what they want to offer their customers. So I would say typically for a particular customer, they would be in one cloud account. But you may have another customer that is budget conscious. And so maybe you go to a different cloud that's, has cheaper storage and cheaper access, and that's what you use for them. So as a service provider, you can manage these multiple different cloud storages, and you can even have a tiered schedule of services that you provide. So if they don't want to spend so much per month on storage for their backups, then guess what? We have this lower tier. You're going to miss out on this, this, and this, but it's cheaper.
Right. And what about HIPAA compliance and all of the new GDPR and all that?
We have a lot of blog posts and information on that. One of the things with GDPR is, kind of country of origin and staying in country. So we support all of the major regions for the major cloud providers. So if you're in the UK, you can force it to stay in the UK. If you're in France, or the EU, you can force it to stay, within that region or within that country, so that it doesn't leave. But in terms of, the backup software itself, it's as compliant as the settings that you set it up to be, and
it's going to do what it's told.
It's going to do what it's told.
So basically, you have a best practice of I set up my Azure. If I want it on the West Coast, I put it on the West Coast. If I want it in Canada, I put it in Canada.
Yes.
So, all right, yeah. So you're outside of that altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do any versioning, or is that just if I've got the versions on my local machine, they get copied up?
Versioning is in
like in files and folders.
Yeah, just like anything, we have retention policies. So as files and folders change, we won't overwrite them. We'll just create a new backup file, so that way you can recover from different points in time where that version of file might be.
Right. Very cool. So how large is your company?
We're just around. I think we're around 100 people. We're a global company, so I say we're global because we have people all over, but we primarily serve North America, and some in EMEA and some in Australia as well.
All right, very cool. And how many partners do you have?
We have thousands of MSPs. I can't remember the exact official number, but we do. We have quite a few that are using our managed backup service, and it was one of the things, and kind of your focus on the small business is when I started talking to Cloudberry, one of the things that was refreshing to me was that they know their niche. It's small business. They're not, we're not trying to go enterprise like so many software companies do. It's like they might start off in SMB and then they say, oh, wow, we're growing into the enterprise. We forget about the small business side. So Cloudberry, we know our niche. We know our pricing is very attractive for the small biz or for the small MSPs. And that's that's the way we want it because I do think a lot of times that market can be underserved.
And is your business affected by the fact that so many people are moving servers up to clouds, and so they're not physically on site anymore?
Not necessarily. If you can still run the instance of the agent, you can back up from one cloud to another because it's all that it's the whole all your eggs in one basket scenario. Do you want all your data in one cloud, or you want to run everything in one cloud but back up to another, so that way you're protected in case something happens.
Right.
And of course, cloud to cloud is going to give you faster access typically than if you're running the server in your office with a cable internet modem. But you have to look at what the pricing is for egress on data and those types of things. But that's still a completely functional way to operate and again protect yourself from all the eggs in one basket.
So you said you worked with something like 30 different cloud providers?
Mm-hmm.
So and that same agent for everything?
Yes. So there's one install. The cloud that you connect to, you can choose whichever cloud you want from the list. Pretty much anything that's S3 compatible will also work. So we've talked with cloud, smaller cloud providers. That's or IT, even cloud providers. I'll just use that term, but not the Amazons. And they may have a service based on Swift or S3, and that they'll work with that. They just have to configure it to talk to their gateway, set it up, and then we're writing data into their data center.
Very cool. And what are the hours for your tech support?
Tech support is, I want to say 24 by 7. It's very close to that. There might be a couple hour gap, at around 3 a.m. But we try to cover 24/7 as much as we possibly can. And as we grow, we're continuing to add to that department to add people to be able to provide that coverage.
Because I know I only work during business hours, but I have clients who might have different habits than what I have. Let's just say.
Yeah, and disasters don't follow business hours. So if you're, if you run into an issue, or you have a customer that has a fire or something like that at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you need help getting them back online, we make every effort that we possibly can to do that.
And you said you can be deployed through the RMM. Does the RMM also keep track of how many agents are deployed, so that in terms of billing or whatever, I can do whatever I choose to?
Correct. So we don't support every RMM because there's a lot out there.
Right.
We support some of the bigger ones. We've got some integration with Ninja that's being rolled out here with the next couple of months. We support LabTech Automate, Automate, I guess is what it's called now, and then plugging into the billing systems as well and some of the PSAs. So we have that link there, so that way you can keep your billing, keep your management through that RMM interface.
And you don't have to say any names, but do you have preferred clouds? Like if I was, hey, dude, let me, off the record.
But, it's kind of, I wouldn't say we have preferred clouds, but our customers do. And when we look at it, what cloud are our customers using or what cloud are our partners using? Amazon is number one. It's not necessarily, like I said, it's not our preference. It's, you can use whatever cloud you want. And then, of course, it's Microsoft Azure. And then between 3 and 4, it's kind of Google and Backblaze and B2, because, B2, they're offering some really aggressive pricing. Like I said, so it's kind of, we see that coming up, and even Wasabi as well, because of some of their pricing and those types of things. So it's not, those are kind of the top five, would be those five. And then, a number of others kind of, through that, but it's not a preference on our part. Different clouds have different APIs that we can take advantage of. So, it's, and as these other clouds get some of those capabilities, like being able to automatically tier your data, move it from hot to cold, then, we're trying to take advantage of those functionalities.
So if I've got long-term storage, I can take advantage of that with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the MSPs, you guys are going to a lot of shows now. I don't know that I've seen you at shows 10 years ago, for example.
I wouldn't say a lot of shows. It's something that we're doing a little bit more of this year. So we're sponsoring a number of the ASCII events that are going on. We're trying to see if we can do some of the small biz, the quarterly show that Dave runs. I think that'd be a good show for us to do. We're trying to get out there, because at the end of the day, from what I'm tasked to do is I need to get out there and meet these folks. I need to tell them and talk to them about, hey, this is Cloudberry, this is what it can do, and build some of those relationships. So that's why, we call them offline events, because they're not online. There's some importance of at least going to these events. And so, you'll see us, hopefully you'll see us more throughout the year.
Very cool. So I've been to, I think, one ASCII event this year, mm-hmm. and two Tech Fest events. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so it's good to see you at those events. And your job as a technical marketeer, you're the one who makes decisions about which shows to go to?
I have an influence. The boss is the one who makes the decisions about where to spend the money and what shows to go to. But, I definitely have an influence. But, online events are obviously cheaper because no one has to travel, no hotel, and those types of things. But, right. But it's kind of hard to have that engagement with people when you're, just online and they're just listening to a presentation or a webinar. Right. It's not the same.
But you are the guy that MSP should talk to if they have questions about the technology.
Sure. Yes.
Very good. So we'll put all those links down below and make sure that people can get a hold of you. And if there's anything in particular that you want to push, I'll be happy to let you plug it.
Again, just if you're interested in our solution for managed service providers, go to the website, go to Managed Backup, sign up for a free trial, and give it a try. Nothing gained, nothing lost.
Very good. Doug Hazelman, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Carl.